In this video, I'm going to walk you through step by step on how you can create a summer reading plan to help you read more and read better this summer. The very first step before you do anything else in your planning process for your summer reading is to pray over it. Prayer is not simply perfunctory, it's an act of dependence on the Lord, trusting that even as we make our human plans, we do all of that in submission to His plan. And the way we express that is by prayer. So before you busy yourself with list making and brainstorming and all that other stuff, set aside a few moments to seek the Lord before you put your plans in progress. The next step to plan your reading this year is to take an inventory of where you've been, where you are now, and where you want to go over the next several months. Here are 4 diagnostic questions for you to work through. The first question is, what have you read lately? List out the 10 or so most recent books that you've read and notice any trends, identify any holes that you're seeing in your reading, and generally just see okay, what is it that I've read over the last several months? Once you've made a list of your most recent 10 reads, now it's time for us to take an inventory of, hey, did I enjoy this read? Did I not enjoy this read? And writing down a few sentences on how you felt about each book will help you to either avoid certain books that you don't want to read over the next several months, or help you to go, oh yeah, I really enjoyed this and I'd like to read another book like this one. Now that we've reflected on the past, let's take a minute in our third question, which is simply, what is on your to-be-read list? So open up your Goodreads, look at your bookshelf, and list out a few of the things that are on your to-be-read list. Like what's next up if you were just to follow whatever it is that your TBR says. And the last question is probably one you're not expecting to hear from me. It's simply, what do you want to read? At the end of the day, we're going to be most successful in reading the things that we actually want to read. It's not supposed to be a torturous process. It's supposed to be an enjoyable process. So take a minute and identify, hey, what are some books that I really want to read this summer? And for this, I'd recommend sending a timer, maybe 10 minutes, and listing out 10 or 15 books like, hey, in an ideal world, these are the books that I would want to read this summer in light of what I've read recently, how I felt about what I've read, and what's on my to-be-read list. Now that we've taken a survey of our recent reads, we're going to ask ourselves a simple question. What am I going to have to say no to this summer so that I can say yes to reading more books? At the end of the day, time is a zero-sum game. That means that the time you spend reading can't be spent watching the latest Netflix show or the latest movie or whatever other entertainment it is that you typically like to consume. And so you have to ask yourself the question, well, in order to do the kind of reading that I want to do this summer, what is it that I'm going to have to say no to? What am I going to have to give up for the sake of reaching this reading goal? Just to be totally transparent with you, one thing that I think I'm going to have to say no to this summer is using the Reels tab on Instagram. I can very easily, at the times when I'm most likely to be reading, so in the morning and the evening, spend that time instead of reading, scrolling through the Reels tab. Now that we've prayed, done some reflection, and decided what we're not going to do so that we can read this summer, it's finally time for us to do what we've all been waiting for up to this point, which is decide, okay, what will we read? What will you read? And this is not the kind of thing that I can prescribe for you. You have to take an account of your time, your schedule, frankly, which books you want to read. Are they deep? And so you'll maybe only be reading 1 or 2 this summer, or are you content to just kind of read normal everyday books and have a larger reading list? What's most important is that you actually make a decision now. You look at your TBR list and you say, okay, from these 10 or 15 books that I listed out earlier, here are the 5 to 7 maybe that I want to read this summer. And for all my fellow millennials out here that struggle with making decisions, especially ones that feel permanent, even if they're not really all that permanent, this will be good for you to step out of your comfort zone and say, yes, I really do want to read this book and this book and this book. And I'm not afraid to say that these are the books I'm choosing, which means I'm not choosing various other books that are on my to-be-read list. Once you've made your list of books that you want to read this summer, that you're committing to read, Now it's time to take all of those pages and all of those chapters in those books and break it down on a month by month, week by week, and potentially even day by day basis, depending on how organized you want to be with it. Now, in order to form a reading plan for the summer, what you're going to want to do is either total up all of the chapters in all of the books that you've decided to read this summer, or total up all of the pages in the books that you've decided to read this summer and divide that number, whichever one you choose, by 90. The reason I say 90 is that it roughly accounts for the months of June, July, and August. I'm assuming you're going to make reading a daily rhythm, and 90 is a good number because it accounts for those 3 months, but it also gives you some flexibility in case you miss a day or two this summer, which with our crazy schedules, I'm sure you will. Now, whether you decide to break down your reading by chapter or by page number highly depends on the kinds of books you want to read this summer. If you are hoping to read books that are shorter or have shorter chapters, you might want to break those down by chapter. It's just easier to start and finish a chapter in a single reading. It's what I do personally. But if you're wanting to tackle larger books with more chapters or longer chapters that you're not going to be able to tackle in a sitting, it might make more sense for you to break it down by pages and just determine how many pages do I want to read per day, or what is my schedule saying I have to read, and break it down that way. Now, if you've completed every step up until this point, you should have prayed, answered those 4 reflection questions which helped form the base for your reading list. Then you should have formed your reading list, and now you've totaled up all the pages or all the chapters in the books that you want to read this summer, and you've broken it down into 90 chunks. Well, congratulations. Hooray! That is your reading plan for the summer. You can start this right now and get ahead. One other thing you might want to do this summer to help you stay on track with your reading is to ask a trusted friend to hold you accountable. You might just want to start a Goodreads account where you list out, hey, these are the books that I'm reading right now, and you give regular updates that a trusted friend or maybe even me can snoop in on and see, how are you doing with your reading plan? You actually reading what you said you were going to read this summer? And in that way, you can encourage someone else, especially if you both have reading plans that you're following this year. My final reminder for you and me as we go to execute our reading plans this summer is simple. Remember that we're in this for the long haul. And so even if you don't get through your reading plan, even if you bite off more than you can chew, which I've never done ever, just know that every page you turn that has you beholding Christ will help you to become more like him. And so even if you don't accomplish your reading goals, even if you don't do everything that you desire to do, as you behold Christ, it has a snowballing effect over days, months, years of faithfulness, training you to be more like him. If you like this video, or if you are making a summer reading plan this year, drop your list in the comments below this video. I would love to see what it is you're planning on reading. Maybe you'll give me some ideas for my summer and fall reading lists. And I'm just getting started here on YouTube, and so if you have a video suggestion or an idea for a video, I would love to hear it. You can either send me that via message or drop that in the comments below as well. Thanks for watching.